but we know how good they are. They're going to be fine. It's probably going to be very close between these two, and that's why even on day one, this is already going to become a pretty important best of 3, and I'm just excited for it because I'm expecting wild things. In the bottom right side, we're looking at the main base of the man that's representing Clash, hailing from Ukraine. It is Hellraiser.
And in the top left, as the blue Protoss representing someone here. That's right, it's Team Roddy. He is Goblin.
Makes me chuckle when I see that. I'm like, man, I'm so stupid. but it's really cool. I'm incredibly happy to see that both the boys made it into DreamHack Masters fall. Goblin made it last season as well, but he didn't have the greatest showing. He actually lost the first 6 best of 3s that he played. But then he did peak on the final playday, defeating Elaser, and Elaser really needed that victory. So Goblin was single-handedly responsible for the fact that Elaser did not make it into the playoffs. This season, though, I'm expecting a much better showing out of Goblin. I think this group suits him better. This patch is suiting him better. And like I said before, Jess, Void Race, Prismatic Alignment, it's happening.
Well, I mean, if that screenshot really is true, that Goblin really was just like, you know what, I'm going to try out some Void Race. And that's why I started winning, then heck, I'm a believer. But I want to see it in action. I actually want to see it in a tournament against a great player. And this might be the chance. You know, I was thinking more PvZ than PvP when I heard the Void Ray change, because that's actually why it was changed. But, you know, when it comes to those updates, as soon as something is updated, everyone uses them in everything. And that might be what's happening here. Goblin's actually got a proxy pylon with the probe still next to it. It's a Twilight Council. All right, Dark Shrine it is.
Yeah, he's going to be a little feisty. Now, Goblin normally likes to proxy near the rocks, but then near the rocks of his opponents on this map. So I'm actually kind of happy to see that he's switching things up. I don't think that maybe the proxy Stargate would have been a bit predictable in game 1. We also can't forget about Goblin's love for the 3-gauge Robo, by the way. He has been absolutely in love with that build for the last 3 years, and he is damn good at doing it. Even when his opponents know it was coming, he was still able to get a lot of victories. See Hellraiser obviously looking for that proxies. Like, I was in the main base, I only saw a single pylon, so something ain't right. You're doing something that's up. I just want to know what it is. But Hellraiser actually going for the correct tech here. He's going for the Robo, which is obviously what you really want to have against DT openings. And look at that probe. I think Hellraiser is actually about to find everything that he's been looking for.
Yep. There it is. Would have been amazing if he had gone home. So sees everything. Hellraiser is already doing a very fine build against it. Three-gate Robo actually is what Hellraiser is doing. So, I mean, now what does Goblin do?
Yep, Hellraiser already proxying on the other side of the map as well. Hellraiser obviously realizing that his army is going to be a little bit better in the straight-up fight. This can still get risky, though. I always think attacking when it's one base against one base and your opponent has DTs, that is a little bit risky. Adepts have shaded into the main base. They got a single prop, and they will get a second one. And that's pretty much the best thing that Goblin really could have hoped for. Yeah, I don't know if I want Hellraiser to attack though, Jess, because you need an observer at home, you need an observer on the other side of the map. Isn't expanding a much better and safer choice for Hellraiser?
I'm with you. I think that he should. He's just like, I hope he is not trying to be too fancy for his own good. Take the W on the scouts and just work with it. It kind of sucks because you really want to be able to beat someone after scouting something so committed. But PvP's in that weird state where, like, even after the scout, a Nexus could be thrown down, could be your best option. Now, Hellraiser did just use that pylon to warp into depths, so he's not, like, super committing. He's going to defend back at home. But we have an Archon drop from Goblin, as he realized DTs weren't going to do very much.
Well, and obviously, I mean, 2-gate Robo is very strong and safe defensively. Now, the Archon shows up as well. A lot of probes are clumped up, but the shield battery should keep everything safe. This is just very weird. Hey, Adepts made it into the main base. The War Prism of Hellraiser managed to pick up the Adepts on the other side of the map and actually get them into the main of Goblin. And this makes this very complicated for Goblin, who's now already taking more economic damage at home than he's been dealing on the other side of the map.
It's good to know that even after Protoss got everything else buffed and nerfed and changed, Adepts are still pretty good in PvP. That is what we're down to. I love the Adepts from Goblin. I think the idea was that Hellraiser would stack his probes, and it almost happened. So the Archon shot was going to be brilliant, but it really wasn't the best Archon shot. He still is going to have this potential. I mean, clearly Hellraiser has a couple of stalkers. You're not lacking anti-air as a Protoss player, but oh, that's a lot of stalkers actually. Yeah. Okay, so I'm disengage.
I thought for a second, like, what if Goblin would just drop the 2 Archons in the mineral line, and then obviously Hellraiser is going to aim at the Prism first. You just fly the Prism away, and then you just try to recall the Archons after taking out a couple of probes. That could have been a cool move as well, but at this point, Goblin not getting much done. Hellraiser, meanwhile, on the other side of the map, finding a little more success with his adepts, and he's still out for blood. He wants more. Goblin is going to follow this up with charge, by the way. How bizarre is this?
You think he's going to go for a 2-base all-in? Like, charge Archon against Blink?
That's kind of what it seems like right now. The expand of Goblin is pretty much useless. Hellraiser is just fighting probe kills left, right, and center. He could have maybe gone for that 1 Stalker as well. What is Goblin doing with his Archons? Okay, they're fighting in the natural. They're fighting a couple of Stalkers. And actually now Goblin fighting a little bit of damage as well. Getting a Stalker kill. What a weird game so far.
This is not the usual PvP, but that's what we were hoping for. So thank you very much, guys. Charge versus Blink. Now, Hellraiser would usually be getting a lot of scouting done with this harassment. He'd be seeing everything being put down in the main. But because everything was proxied, he kind of has to go back and check what's happening over there if he really wants to get the correct scout. I mean, he hasn't seen any Immortals pop out. The Twilight Council could be Blink or it could be Charge. It's kind of hard to figure out right now with the current compositions of their armies. But what Goblin throws on gateways, but it feels kind of late. I mean, these adepts have really interrupted his plans.
Hellraiser is actually playing just an excellent game. He's been safe and sound at home, and he's never been overcommitting to dealing damage on the other side of the map, but he's just been finding damage with his adepts. In the end, they will finally go down, but not before finding 6 more probe kills, and obviously all the probes were back in the main base again. Goblin does finally take care of that pesky pylon, but that Warp Prism is still out there. And Hellraiser has now secured himself a 14 worker advantage and has a perfect read on this scenario as well as he's getting the wall off at home. You gotta love the way that Hellraiser has been playing this.
Yeah, he didn't see the gateways, he didn't see the research, but just the circumstances, defend, build that wall. And that's exactly what he's doing. It's gonna be hard to get charge lots through that. Best case scenario, they get in the main, but when Stalkers being available, that doesn't seem likely to happen. Actually, Goblin adding on an Immortal with this push. It's a very odd push. Very oddly timed, too.
Yep. If I'm Goblin and I see that wall off, I know that you feel like you have to do it because you're so far behind. But trying to break that wall, I think, is also pointless. You're not going to break that. Well, he's going to Chrono Boost the gateway, so he's going to absolutely do his best. Hellraiser is going into the Robo Bay. Now, getting Disruptors against this Orcolossi eventually is fantastic, but I think he's thinking a little further ahead than he really needs to. I think at this point, I'd say just mass Stalkers. The more Stalkers you have, the easier it is to deal with this eventually. The Zealots will run out of steam. Goblin's economy is not that sick. I really wonder what Goblin does when he sees his wall, because you can't be really thinking about breaking this. As we have more Adepts, I believe it is, on the other side of the map. Man, Hellraiser is playing so annoying, but obviously very well.
Yeah. Goblin's going to pick off the structures while he can, while I guess dealing with the Adepts back at home, but even almost losing that 1 Guardian Shield. I would say usually you throw in a Robotics Bay at this point as Goblin. Disruptor's the best way to do a comeback, but he's really in a bad spot. I mean, this could be a game where you just see a tap out because he has nothing, he just knows he's dead. He's got no other options.
Being forced to warp in a couple of units at home to deal with those Adepts. He's gonna try to pick off a Stalker or so on the other side of the map and at least get a gateway for his troubles, but this is just not really going anywhere for Goblin, and he knows it, and Hellraiser knows it as well. Look at that Stalker count. I feel like that Stalker count is almost high enough to just blink on top of the army, which is not something you ever want to do with Stalkers against Zealots, but when you have this many, I wouldn't hate to see it.
That the 1 Disruptor's not going to get a good shot, and the structures are eventually going to fall down. This is it. Goblin goes in. Equal army supply. Hellraiser has shield battery. He's got +1, though, and Goblin doesn't even really let that fight finish. GG. Hellraiser with the victory. I mean, the Adepts were just relentless. The Scout was good, and the additional Scout, too. I think he saw that the probes weren't mining gas, so that's why he was like, oh, charge. Easy peasy, wall off.
Yep, really well done. At first, it was like, if I'm Hellraiser, I wouldn't really be focused on dealing damage on the other side of the map. But his plan was to expand all along. Just a little bit later, he's like, nope, I know that when you're doing a build like the one you're doing, you're going to have very few units. And if you're relying on that full wall off, well, that's fine. There were 2 probes on the low ground, first of all, that were like excluded from the main base. Those went down, and then the War Prism shows up. They start dropping the adepts on the other side of the wall off. And Goblin just couldn't really deal with it. Goblin wanted to be the one who was annoying, who wanted to pick off 1 probe at a time. And in the end, it was Hellraiser who was the one who was truly annoying, finding damage, getting some good success. And Goblin really didn't get much done on the other side of the map.
No, I did not. We talked a lot about the Void Rays. Well, we can't forget that one of the first differences to PvP is the shield battery. Like, it's supposed to kind of be not as good anymore to do what Goblin did, to proxy all your stuff. Especially because it seems inevitable in some cases that you're going to be found. It became a standard at one point to not even scout your opponent, rather to send 2 probes all over the map just because they really wanted to find the proxy. Now you have shield battery overcharge, you have better understanding of the game, and I mean, yeah, it was fortunate he found all that stuff, but I don't know. I liked Hellraiser's play better just in general. I think Goblin, if he's going to do something weird and wacky, it's got to be, I guess more unique than that, more unique than a DT proxy.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I don't hate it. Like, hindsight is obviously, it's always easy to criticize a build. But when I think of Goblin PvP, I think of either he's doing something weird with the Void Rays, or it's the 3-gauge robot that he absolutely loves. So, the fact that he threw out a curveball and went for the Dark Shrine. Like, imagine if Hellraiser would have been like, all right, I know he's been building Void Rays all the time. I'm going to go for a defensive Stargate. I'm going to open up with a Phoenix. And you don't find the proxies, only DTs running your main base. It could have been over, and we'd be like, oh my god, Goblin is a genius. So I feel like he took a shot. He missed it. It's all good. We're moving on to game 2. It is going to be played on Everdream. Small map. Or maybe we could proxy a Stargate on the other side of the map. Who knows? Top right side. We're looking at the main base with the man who just took a 1-0 lead off the back of just some fantastic adept play. Representing Clash, it is Hellraiser.
In the bottom left, as the blue Protoss, we have Goblin. Yeah, okay. So I thought Death Aura might actually have been the map that we saw one of the faster expand builds that has been coming up in PvP. Seems to happen there, and then Pillars of Gold is also a unique map in that sense, but didn't see it. And then Everdream, a little less likely on that faster expand as well. So it is back to, okay, who is going to proxy and what?
I think Pillars of Gold and Golden Wall are the 2 best maps in PvP to go for a 1-gate fast expand or a Nexus first, because there is that ramp leading into the natural, and it just makes it a little bit easier to defend early on when you only have like 1 unit and you can't really get out microed because your opponent doesn't have high ground vision. That's an interesting second gateway placement by Goblin. This is going to use his core as a part of the wall. Okay. A little different.
Interesting indeed. I mean, it can't be because he's trying to make Hellraiser think there's a Nexus. Probe's still going to get in there. All right, well. Either way, right? It would suck if this ended up, losing him as our next core against a really push, but...
It's like when you need those extra stalkers, your Cybercore goes down, you're like, no, all I can wipe in are slow zealots. Hellraiser lets the pylon finish up in the natural of Goblin. He's like, okay, I'm okay with sacrificing 100 minerals just to see what you're doing for a long time. And again, somebody who likes the adept openers, that's obviously not a bad choice, because you don't really want to let your first 2 adepts take out a pylon, because it takes forever. We do have a Stargate going up in the back of the main, and since that probe is still there, feeling Void Race.
Yeah, you guys are so stuck on that. Well, he did see the Stargate. I bring this up, when I cast PvP, like, it's funny that 1-base Stargate thing, because the probe theoretically can stay in the main long enough to see it. Usually it leaves. In this case, it did not. Gets a perfect scout. Now Hellraiser. What is his response to this? The Twilight Council. All right.
Makes sense. Goblin, his probe timing was a bit unfortunate, I think. Because it dropped the pylon, but then the adepts popped off already, and just losing that scouting probe already hurts a little bit. And it's actually going to be a Phoenix for Goblin, and that's of course a little more standard, a little more traditional. We know the Goblin loves the Phoenixes as well. Wonder if it's going to be Phoenix Robo or something really wild like a double Stargate.
Well, I feel so much better for Hellraiser. Like, the scout was so fantastic. And he gets a depth in. Now only gets one probe, right? But good recall. Gets both of them out. But yeah, the fact that he can go into blink now actually adds on a third gateway too. And he goes into blink now. It just feels really nice. I mean, whether it was against an Oracle or Phoenix, but certainly against Phoenix, you need that. It's both going to set him up well. Doesn't worry about any DT stuff because clearly it's not that. And that's going to be something that usually carries you further into PvP. Less so about the Phoenix, more so about the blink.
This is going to be bad for Goblin if he wanted to expand, but he did just get the adepts in the natural, so I really hope that Goblin does not expand before Hellraiser does, because it is hard to defend your expand if your opponent is applying a lot of pressure on one base with Blink Stalkers. Now Hellraiser is expanding though, and then we have the first Void Ray. Yes, you know what's gonna happen? He's gonna make two Void Rays, Hellraiser's gonna blink on top of them, they're gonna die, and you're gonna be a genius. Oh.
Yeah! I'm looking forward to it. I mean, that's a possibility. A cool Adept Shade block. Nicely done. But Hellraiser, I don't know if he's really going to be insistent on pressuring. I think he knows he's got a good deal here, going for these Blink Stalkers. But what I think he's going to be paying attention to is not just, hey, can I get my depths in the main? That'd be fantastic. But the amount of Phoenix he consistently sees.
Goblin got very close to scouting that pylon on the left side with his Phoenixes, but he turned them around right before they were in range of spotting it. And if I would see a random pylon like that where there are no units nearby, I would always immediately think, oh my god, this is DTs. Even before that Dark Shrine was actually done. The Adepts are gonna let their Shade finish up. They will pick off a single probe before going down. But it's so important for Goblin that he either spots that pylon or spots the Dark Shrine, because the Dark Shrine is halfway done right now, and he's got no detection out on the map.
It's just so good for Hellraiser, man. Hellraiser, love the Dark Shrine. The pylon being safe and sound is really nice as well. But he saw the Void Ray, so even, like, of course, it's kind of in right now. He might have been anticipating the Void Ray. Also gets a scout on it. So he knows it's only a certain amount of Phoenix. So that whole harassment phase that can happen where you have stalkers, but they keep on picking off probes, doesn't really happen with 3 of them.
This is actually disastrous for Goblin. I hope that he's about to warp in a cannon in his natural, but he's not. There was a probe that was idling there. I was like, is that a cannon? 2 Dark Templars are being warped in right now off that offensive pylon that hasn't been scouted yet by these Phoenixes. The Phoenixes were so close. Now they will find it. The Phoenixes are on track. No, he changed his path again. This is just game over. There's just nothing that he can really do. There's no detection.
Yeah. He got so close to scouting the Dark Shrine too, but the Stalkers were just they were too good. I love the Stalkers. I love them here. Blocking that out, revealing the DTs, giving them at least some time to get a cannon or an Oracle, but this is clearly not a good situation. He's going to spend so much time dealing with this, and well, there you go. Yep, that's
This is over. 2 Dark Templars in the main base. 1 cannon is like halfway done. But even if you survive here and you lose 17 probes, you know you're dead. Especially since Goblin was already economically behind. These Dark Templars are just having a field day. An insane amount of lost mining time. And I think that Goblin knows it as well. At this point, he's just like, do I have a chance in this game? And I think he knows as well that this is not going to happen anymore.
Oracle will reveal this second DT, but honestly, Hellraiser could have warped in a third one. Just continued attacking the Nexus. Or he could have just warped in all the Stalkers he would want and go across the map. I mean, there's actually very little reason for him not to be on the map. 3 Phoenix aren't going to tear down his probe line. So there he goes now. Got gateways finishing. Doesn't have a warp prism, right? But I guess he doesn't really need one. We'll see.
He still has that pylon for the slow warp-ins on the left side, so that's going to help out a little bit. Maybe the Phoenixes will be able to find some damage now. Obviously, they have a lot of energy, so they could potentially pick off an insane amount of probes. Can 4 Void Rays, soon to be 5 Void Rays, deal with... I don't even know how many Stalkers that is. 18. I think even with battery overcharge, that is going to be very, very tough. Is he going to blink under the Void Rays? The answer is yes, and he's going to gun them down one by one. Actually struggles a little bit with Void Ray number 2 and 3, but in the end, this is good enough. GG gets called Hellraiser.